They say most things fall apart slowly until one moment makes it all too clear. For me, it came wrapped in sunlight and routine like betrayal dressed in a housecoat. Thursday mornings were predictable in our Lakeway home. I'd wake up early, slip out for a run before the heat settled in, and come back to the smell of coffee Madison had brewed. For years together had turned chaos into rhythm, shared grocery lists, mismatched mugs, inside jokes about our neighbors. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. Or at least, I thought we were. That morning started no different. I barely made it halfway through my run when I realized I left my smartwatch on the bathroom counter. It was dumb, maybe, but I'd been tracking a new PR and the numbers mattered. So I turned around, cutting through the trail by the golf course and jogging back home just as the neighborhood started to stir, sprinklers hissing, kids waiting for the bus, birds making a racket in the trees. I came up the driveway, still catching my breath. The house was quiet, early light streaming through the upstairs windows. The front door was locked, like always, so I looped around the side path, brushing past the overgrown rosemary and stepping beneath our bedroom window. That's when I heard her. At first, it was just laughter. Madison's voice, warm, unguarded. Not the fake giggle she used in client meetings, but the real one. The kind that started in her throat and came out like a sigh. Then clear as day. I didn't wash it. It still smells like you. 9 words. That's all it took. No names. No context. Just enough to stop me in my tracks. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place, heart pounding against my ribs like a war drum. She didn't say anything else. No follow-up. Just silence. Maybe she'd realized the window was open. Or maybe the call had ended. But the way her voice shifted, soft and low, like she wanted to hold the moment, it didn't feel like a joke. Eventually, I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me and the house greeted me like nothing had happened. The coffee pot was still warm. One of her favorite Spotify playlists, the one she called Soft Chaos, was playing in the background, some indie singer murmuring about lost love over piano chords. Madison was in the kitchen, barefoot and effortless in one of my old college sweatshirts, tapping a spoon against her yogurt cup like she didn't have a care in the world. "Hey," she said when she saw me. "Back already?" "Forgot my watch," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled. "That's very on brand." I tried to laugh. It sounded wrong coming out. She slid the yogurt container aside and grabbed her phone off the counter. It was face down like it had been for the past few weeks, something I only started noticing recently. Another new habit. Like how she didn't leave her charger in the kitchen anymore. Or how she started wearing lipstick on mornings she worked from home. "Were you on the phone just now?" I asked. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough for the silence to say something she wouldn't. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Just catching up with Caleb, remember him? My friend from SCD." I nodded slowly, the name landing like a brick in my gut. "Thought he was off-grid," I said. "Didn't you say he was doing that no-tech retreat thing?" "Oh, he was," she said, eyes darting down to the sink. "But I guess he bailed on it. Said it wasn't for him. We haven't talked in forever. Just random stuff." She didn't look at me when she said it. Just kept wiping down the counter like it needed to be cleaner than usual. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in my brain, the part of me that always gave her the benefit of the doubt, went quiet. I left the room without saying anything else. Walked upstairs, grabbed the watch, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at the floorboards. My mind raced, replaying her voice over and over. "I didn't wash it. It still smells like you." The sentence wouldn't leave. It looped like a glitch in a song you can't skip. I tried to rationalize it, to spin it into something harmless. Maybe she was joking. Maybe it was about an old shirt of mine she found. Maybe I'd heard it wrong. But I hadn't. I knew her voice too well. I knew the tone she used when she wanted to feel close to someone. I'd heard her speak that way to me years ago when everything was new and gravity pulled us together instead of apart. That morning, something cracked. It wasn't a break. Not yet. But it was enough to let the doubt in, to slip through the floorboards and curl around the edges of everything we'd built. When I came back downstairs, she was gone. Left a sticky note on the fridge that said, "Meeting in town, back by 3. With a little heart at the end. I stared at that note for 10 full seconds before peeling it off and tossing it in the trash. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself all at once. It seeps. It shifts. It waits in the quiet corners and reveals itself in shadows. That Thursday, I started to see the shadows. And I couldn't unsee them. After that Thursday morning, nothing looked the same. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage, like every framed photo, every pillow she'd fluffed just right, was part of a set built to convince me that we were still the couple we used to be. But once you hear something like that, you don't go back to seeing the world the same way. You start noticing things. Not because you want to, but because your mind refuses to let go until it finds proof. Or peace. Preferably both. That day, Madison came home around 3:30. Her hair was damp, claimed it rained on the way back from her client meeting downtown, but the sky had been clear all afternoon. I knew that because I'd watched it from the patio, trying not to go insane. She kissed my cheek, smiled like nothing had happened, and asked if I wanted to order Thai or cook. I said Thai. She said good call, like we were still normal. That night, while she was in the shower, I noticed something on the bathroom counter, her engagement ring. Again. At first, I chalked it up to practicality. She'd always said it was a little tight in the summer when her fingers swelled. But we were well into October, and this was the 4th time in 2 weeks that she'd left it behind. Always in a different spot. Like she couldn't decide whether to forget it or pretend it mattered. I didn't ask her about it that night. I just stared at it, at the way it caught the light, and wondered if it meant something different now. Over the next few days, the oddities kept stacking up. Her laptop, once always open on the kitchen island, started closing the second I walked into the room. She'd snap it shut like it was muscle memory, then pretend she was just done with emails. Said she was trying to unplug more. But I knew that look in her eyes. It was the same one she gave when she had birthday plans or booked a surprise getaway, except now it wasn't charming. It was evasive. Saturdays used to be her thing. Coffee runs, farmers markets, Home Depot if we were feeling wild. But lately, she'd been ducking out early, saying she was going to an extended yoga class downtown. The first time, I didn't think much of it. The second time, she came back with smeared eyeliner and the scent of cologne I didn't recognize clinging to her coat. I didn't mention it. Not right away. Because when you're still hoping to be wrong, confrontation feels like pulling the pin on a grenade you're holding to your own chest. Instead, I tried something dumb. I left her a note. Hope yoga was restorative. You smelled amazing when you got back. New perfume. It was a test. Not the healthy kind. The kind where you want to see if someone will lie even when they don't have to. She texted back 5 minutes later. Haha no. Sat too close to a guy in class, I think. Total cologne bath. Gross, right? Right? She smiled extra wide at dinner that night. Asked me more questions than usual. Told me she missed our late-night TV binges, then suggested we watch anything I wanted. Madison hated reruns, but that night she offered to rewatch The West Wing, which we'd already seen twice. And then she did something she never did. She baked. Madison didn't bake. She considered measuring flour the universe's way of boring you into tears. But there she was, apron on, sugar on her cheek, pulling banana bread out of the oven like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. Thought it'd be nice, she said, slicing it warm and handing me a piece. It was good. Too good. She was compensating. Overcorrecting. Loving me just a little too loudly, like she was playing a role she thought she was supposed to love. And I let her. I smiled. I kissed her forehead. I told her it was the best banana bread I'd ever had. I was trying to believe that if I played along, maybe the cracks wouldn't grow. But they did. The final blow came on a Wednesday night. We were heading out to a friend's engagement party. Madison came down in a navy blue dress, simple, elegant, the kind of thing that made time stop for a second when she wore it. But what caught my eye wasn't the dress. It was the bracelet. Silver. Subtle. Tucked just beneath her sleeve. New bracelet? I asked. She hesitated, then held up her wrist. Oh, this? Old friend gave it to me forever ago. Found it in a drawer last week. She said it so casually. So effortlessly. I smiled, then excused myself to the garage, saying I needed to grab something from the car. I didn't. I pulled out my phone, opened our photo archive, and ran a search. I'd seen every piece of jewelry Madison owned. Every one of them had a story. Birthdays. Vacations. Anniversaries. But not this. When we got home that night, she left her bracelet on the bathroom counter while she brushed her teeth. I picked it up, pretending not to care. That's when I saw the engraving. Take your time, see. Just that. 5 words. 5 words that could mean anything or everything. That night, when she fell asleep with her arm draped across my chest like old times, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember when things stopped making sense. There was no exact moment. No siren or announcement. Just a growing awareness that the woman beside me, this woman I'd planned to marry, to build a life with, was slowly becoming someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't the lies themselves. It was how easy they came, how comfortably she slipped into them, how they wrapped around her like silk. I didn't say anything the next morning. I just watched her brush her hair in the mirror, watched her check her phone 3 times in 5 minutes, watched her slip the bracelet back onto her wrist with the kind of care people reserve for things that matter. The puzzle was no longer scattered. The pieces were forming something darker. And I wasn't sure I wanted to see what the final picture would be. I didn't want to be the guy who snooped. You know, the type, paranoid, possessive, scrolling through phones or checking location history like some twisted form of int asterisk Macy. I used to judge those guys. Swore I'd never be one of them. And yet, there I was, sitting in my parked car, hands trembling slightly as I stared at the app on my phone. It had started 2 days earlier. After the bracelet. Couldn't sleep. Not really. Not the kind of sleep that lets you dream. I'd been lying next to her every night, pretending everything was fine, while this pressure built in my chest. Every word she said felt like it might be the next lie. Every detail, her laughter, her texts, her schedule, felt rehearsed. So I did it. I researched tracking apps. Found one that was discreet. Something designed for family safety, which was just tech industry spin for find out where they really go. I installed it on her car the next morning while she was in the shower, right before we both left for work. Took 5 minutes. That's all it took to become someone I never thought I'd be. I told myself I was only looking for clarity, not revenge, not proof to throw in her face, just truth. Friday came, and with it, an opportunity. She told me she'd be out late. Said she was helping a friend plan a bachelorette weekend in Fredericksburg. I asked which friend. She said Lily. I asked if she needed help with anything. She said no. Kissed me like she meant it, threw a bag over her shoulder, and walked out the door humming a tune I didn't recognize. I waited 10 minutes, maybe 12, just enough time for her to get out of the neighborhood. Then I opened the app. Her location pinged, moving fast, not toward Fredericksburg, not toward Lily's house. No, she was heading into the city, toward the highway, past the turnoff she should have taken, right toward the southern edge of Austin, near Barton Creek. I zoomed in. My stomach dropped. 7 Pines Retreat. A boutique hotel, just far enough from downtown to feel hidden but close enough to attract weekend affairs and startup pitch decks. I knew the place. Everyone in real estate did. It catered to discretion, their website said. Couples packages, candlelit balconies, room service that promised no interruptions. I stared at the blinking dot on the map like it was a heartbeat. Once she stopped moving, I opened our shared booking app, the one we'd used for our last anniversary getaway. She didn't know I still had access. I scrolled through recent reservations, and there it was. Cole Renner, booked under his name. 2 nights. Same check-in time she had just arrived. Cole. It hit me like cold water. See. From the bracelet. Take your time, see. It all made sense now. I'd met him once. At a design expo downtown. He worked in some adjacent field, lighting or textures or something, tall, charming, the kind of guy who says your name like it's the start of a secret. I remember the way Madison smiled when he complimented her presentation. I remember brushing it off. Turns out I shouldn't have. I didn't drive to the hotel. I didn't follow her. I didn't storm into the lobby and demand to see the room. Instead, I sat in my car. The one we picked out together. The one she insisted had room for a car seat one day. And I breathed, because the truth was out. Unignorable. And I needed to decide what kind of man I wanted to be in this moment. Could have called her. Could have texted and asked how the bachelorette prep was going. Could have baited her into one more lie just for the satisfaction of catching it. But I didn't want more lies. I wanted a clean break. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her choices. Not through yelling, not through drama, but through silence, through the quiet collapse of what we once were. I sat there for almost an hour. The sun dipped low. The app kept blinking. She wasn't moving. Neither was I. Eventually, I drove home. I parked, turned off the ignition, and sat in the silence of our garage. I looked around at the boxes we'd never unpacked, the shelves we said we'd build together, the paint samples taped to the wall waiting for a decision. Everything felt paused, like our life had been buffering this whole time, and now the connection was gone. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I slept in the guest room. No note. No explanation. I just didn't want her scent on my pillow. The next morning I made coffee, fed the dog, answered a few emails. I could have sent her a message. I didn't. At noon, the app told me she was still at the hotel. By 4 p.m., she was on the move again. The dot made its way slowly back to Lakeway. No stops. No detours. When she walked through the door, she smiled like she hadn't just spent the night elsewhere. Bachelorette planning turned into a wine marathon, she said, tossing her bag onto the couch. I'm exhausted. I nodded. Cool. Want Thai again tonight? Sure. She kissed me, then headed upstairs for a shower. I watched her go. Watched the way she moved, casually, like she had nothing to hide. But I knew now, everything I needed to know, and I was done pretending. 2 days later, we had a wedding to attend. Friends of ours, college sweethearts, the kind of couple who made everyone else in the room believe in second chances. I didn't want to go. Honestly, the idea of smiling through formal photos and clinking champagne glasses made my stomach turn. But Madison insisted. You said we'd go, she reminded me that morning, slipping her earring in front of the mirror. It'll be good to get out of the house. You've seemed tense lately. Tense. Sure. I looked at her from across the room. She was dressed in red. Madison didn't wear red often. She said it made her feel like she was trying too hard. But today she wore it like armor. Hair curled. Lipstick bold. A dress with a slit too subtle to be scandalous but too sharp to be casual. It was a statement, and she wasn't making it for me. I noticed the extra care in how she posed when checking her reflection. The second glance at her phone. The faint trace of the same cologne she'd brought home last weekend still on her coat. It didn't take much imagination to guess who else would be at the wedding. She didn't say a word about Cole. But she didn't have to. I already knew. The text from CR, with the heart emoji, the bracelet, the hotel. The only thing left was the performance. We arrived just before the ceremony started. It was one of those outdoor affairs. String lights, white chairs, a live quartet. Everyone looked sun-dappled and radiant. I felt like I was made of stone. Madison greeted friends like nothing was wrong. Hugged the bride's mom. Complimented someone's shoes. She kept one hand on my arm for appearances and waved with the other. I let her. And then he walked in. Cole. He didn't come in alone. He came in with confidence. With that effortless, smug charm I remembered from the expo. And when he reached us, Madison's grip on my arm tightened. Just for a second before she let go. Austin, Cole said, smiling like we were still in the same social circle. Good to see you, man. I nodded. Yeah, you too. Madison didn't introduce him. She didn't need to. Her body language did it for her. The way she turned slightly toward him. The way her eyes lingered. They didn't hold hands. Not yet. But the space between them was loud. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, Madison disappeared. Said she was going to find Lily. But I saw where she went. Toward the garden. Toward him. I didn't follow. Instead, I approached the wedding coordinator. Hey! I said, keeping my voice light. Random ask. Could you help me get a small box to the MC? Just a little surprise for someone later. She looked intrigued. Sure. What's the occasion? Just closure, I said, smiling politely. The box was already in my jacket pocket. Small, velvet, the kind you'd expect to see at a proposal. Inside was Madison's engagement ring, cleaned, polished, carefully placed. And beneath the ring, folded neatly, a note. I didn't write a monologue. No bitter rants. Just a few lines in my own handwriting. You wore it when it mattered less. You took it off when it mattered most. I'm not angry. I'm just done. I sealed it, handed it off, and walked outside. The MC would give it to her sometime during the reception. I didn't say when. That part didn't matter. Dinner was served under a tent lit by hanging bulbs. People gave toasts. Someone made a joke about married life being a beautiful trap. I drank just enough champagne to keep my mouth shut. Madison returned to the table midway through the second course. Cheeks flushed, smile practiced. Sorry, she whispered. Ran into some folks from work. I nodded. Of course. And then, sometime between the cake cutting and the first dance, I saw the MC slip her the box. He didn't make a show of it. Just leaned over, said something in her ear, and handed it to her. She looked at it like it was radioactive. Madison opened it slowly, one hand on her lap, one on the lid. Her expression didn't change at first. Not in any big, obvious way. But I watched the air go out of her lungs like someone had hit the mute button. Her fingers trembled. She stared at the note for a long time. Too long. She looked up. Searched the crowd. Cole noticed. Leaned in. Everything okay? I imagine he asked. She didn't answer. Just closed the lid, hand wrapped tight around the box like it might escape. Then she stood up. Not dramatically. Not with a scream or a scene. She just walked away from the table. Her heels clicked against the floor with that same rhythm I used to hear in our hallway when she was pacing after late-night client calls. I was already gone. By the time she made it outside, I was in the car. She didn't call. Didn't text. At least not that night. The next morning, her name appeared on my phone screen more times than I could count. Missed calls. Messages. Long ones. Austin, please. Can we talk? I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You don't understand how complicated this has been for me. Please don't shut me out. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words, but because I'd already said everything I needed to say, with silence, with a box, with a clean exit from a party I no longer had a reason to attend. Some people think closure comes from confrontation. I learned it comes from clarity. And clarity doesn't always yell. Sometimes it walks out of a wedding without looking back. After the wedding, something in me locked into place. Not shattered. Not broken. Just sealed. Like a door that had quietly clicked shut behind me. Madison had tried to text me again the next morning, long, winding paragraphs that sounded like they were written for a therapist, not the man she'd cheated on. I didn't read past the first 2 lines. There was no confrontation. No begging. No accusations. Just the steady click of moving parts, paperwork, passwords, boundaries. I didn't need chaos. I needed precision. First thing I did that Sunday was call our bank. I closed the shared checking account. Then I moved my savings to a different institution entirely. She wouldn't see it coming and I wasn't interested in warning her. Next came the passwords. I reset everything: email, cloud storage, even the Wi-Fi she always complained was too weak in the guest room. That would be her room soon. I had no plans to share anything more than the square footage outlined in the lease. Our mortgage was in my name. Madison had always floated the idea of contributing in other ways with design help, with touches around the house. I'd never pushed back. Now I was grateful I hadn't. By noon, she still hadn't come home. Around 2 p.m., I got a message that just said, "Can we talk when I get back?" I didn't respond. When she walked in later that afternoon, she looked tired. Her hair was still curled from the wedding, but the makeup had faded and her eyes were shadowed. She stopped in the entryway like she didn't know where she belonged. "Hey," she said quietly. I saw the box." I nodded. She waited, maybe expecting me to fill the silence with anger. I didn't. I just turned and walked into the kitchen. "Austin," she said, following, "I know you're hurt. I know you're angry. Please, let me explain." "I don't need an explanation," I said, opening the fridge. "I already know the story." "It's not what you think," she rushed in. I smiled to myself. It always starts like that. I turned to face her. "I think you were seeing Cole behind my back. I think you lied about it repeatedly. I think you stayed in a hotel with him and used your friend's bachelorette party as a cover story. Am I wrong?" She didn't answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. That silence was more honest than anything she could have said. I poured a glass of water and walked past her. "I'm not yelling," I said over my shoulder. "I'm not throwing anything. You don't need to brace yourself. This isn't that kind of ending." She followed me again, slower now. "Then what is this?" "It's called disengaging," I said, setting the glass down. "It's what happens when the person you love turns into a stranger." She sat down at the dining table, hers now, mostly. I never liked that particular design, but she had insisted on it. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "No," I corrected. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or misplacing your keys. What you did was a choice. Over and over." She looked down at her hands like they might offer her a script. "I was lonely," she said finally. "We were drifting. You were working so much and I didn't know how to bring it up. So you brought someone else into the house instead," I said. "Not physically yet, but into your world. Into your thoughts. Into your bracelet." I almost smiled at that last part. Bitterly. She wiped at her eye. "I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. There's someone I need to talk to, I said suddenly, grabbing my keys. She looked up, startled. Who? Your father. Madison blinked, confused. Why would you? Because unlike you, he's built his reputation on trust. And I respect him enough to let him know why I'm walking away from his daughter. Her eyes widened. You're going to ruin me. I stopped at the door and turned to her. No, Madison, I said, my voice calm. You already did that part yourself. Douglas Clark was one of the most respected figures in Texas real estate. I'd met him at a ribbon cutting years ago, and over time we'd collaborated on several development proposals. He liked order, liked integrity, and he liked me at least before this. When I called, I didn't give him the details. Just asked if he had time to meet, alone, off the record. He didn't hesitate. We met at his office downtown. It was a space built on legacy, framed blueprints, photos of buildings that shaped skylines, and a signed baseball bat from Nolan Ryan hanging on the wall. He stood when I walked in. Austin, he said, shaking my hand. Wasn't expecting this, but I've always got time for you. I sat down. I didn't waste his time. I laid it all out: dates, call records, hotel reservations. Screensh * TS. Photos. Madison's bracelet. The note I'd left in the wedding box. He listened without interrupting. That's what struck me. He didn't ask a single question until I was done. When I finally leaned back, he exhaled slowly and said, How long have you been sitting on this? A few weeks, I said. I wanted to be sure. He nodded. And you are? Yes. Another pause. He folded his hands, then looked at me. I'm sorry, he said. Not like a father apologizing for his daughter, but like a man who understood exactly what it meant to build something on trust only to watch it get quietly dismantled. I'm not here for sympathy, I said. I'm here because I've been developing something quietly. An investment initiative, small, ethical, clean capital. Built on transparency. It was going to be something I pitched to you eventually. But now I'd rather get ahead of it before the noise starts. He raised an eyebrow. You have a name for it? Blake Integrity Capital. He smiled at that. Just a little. Fitting. I pulled out a folder with projections, models, notes. It's still early, but I've lined up a few founders. I think it's time. He flipped through the papers. His expression didn't change, but when he reached the final page, he closed the folder and tapped it once with his fingers. I'll support this, he said. Quietly. Fully. Why? Because, he said, people like me built their empires pretending values didn't matter. People like you are the ones who'll make sure they actually do. That night, I got home to an empty house. Madison had gone. No note. No message. Just silence. It suited me fine. I walked upstairs, removed the last framed photo of us from the hallway, and placed it gently into a storage box in the closet. It wasn't revenge. It was inventory. You don't rebuild until you clear the wreckage. And I was finally ready to start clearing. 3 months later, I was in Dallas for a business forum, our first major pitch night for Blake Integrity Capital. I wasn't there to mingle, but someone called my name near the coffee bar. I turned and saw Harper Clark, Madison's younger sister. We hadn't spoken since last year's gala. She gave me a look that wasn't pity or curiosity, just recognition. You look steadier, she said. We talked. Then we kept talking over coffee, then dinner. She didn't ask for details. Didn't pry. She just existed beside me with calm honesty I didn't realize I'd missed. There was no fixing me. She wasn't trying to. And maybe that was exactly why I didn't mind being near her. 6 months in, the fund was thriving. Quiet support from Douglas opened doors I never thought I'd walk through. One evening during a rooftop event, I found Harper watching the skyline. I handed her a small box. She opened it to find a green pendant, simple, honest. Not a promise, I told her. Just something real. She smiled. No words. That was enough. Madison's emails still came sometimes, apologies, what-ifs, half-hearted hope. I never replied. I already had. With silence. With exits. With a life built not to prove anything to her, but to finally belong to me.